Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something many of us have either lived through or are currently observing, the seventh grade year.
Hmm.
Those pivotal ages of 12 and 13. Well, they can seem like navigating a minefield, right? For the young person and honestly for everyone around them.
Well, they really can. Seventh grade often sits right at the emotional crux of adolescence. It's a year where everything just feels amplified.
Amplified, yeah.
Identity exploration goes into hyperdrive. Emotions swing wildly. Social dynamics get incredibly intricate. And there's this brand new, often pretty harsh spotlight on the self.
Absolutely. So our goal today is really to unpack some of this intensity. We've gathered some fascinating perspectives to help us truly understand what makes this year so unique.
Right.
We want to move beyond just describing what happens and really dig into the underlying reasons and maybe offer some clarity along the way.
And when you really boil it down, seventh grade is often messy, definitely moody, yet, well, undeniably magnetic and profoundly formative. It's this intense period defined by a real push-pull.
Yeah, that fundamental tug of war, this powerful desire for independence, to make their own choices, have their own space. And at the same time, this still very real need for the security of knowing someone's got their back.
Exactly.
They're constantly testing boundaries, seeing how far they can push things, but underneath, they're still trying to figure out where the safe zones are, even if they're not exactly asking for directions.
Precisely. It's a year often characterized by what we might call the identity earthquake.
The identity earthquake.
Yeah, and this isn't just a little tremor. It's a significant upheaval in how they see themselves.
That feeling of, wait, the person I thought I was is changing, but who exactly am I becoming? It's deeply unsettling, isn't it? But ultimately necessary.
Oh, absolutely. And this internal shift, it ripples outwards in all sorts of visible ways.
Like what?
Well, suddenly it might be a complete wardrobe overhaul, a dramatic new hairstyle, maybe even exploring different pronouns or just a whole new vibe.
Yeah.
A new way of presenting themselves.
Right. And shifting friend groups, too.
Precisely. You'll often see them navigating different social circles, almost like trying on different group identities to see which one fits best. And there can be this gravitation toward extremes in their opinions, their hobbies, even the causes they suddenly care about as they test the edges of who they might become.
Interesting.
And what's really important to consider is that this isn't necessarily just about being difficult or rebellious. It's often a form of, experiential learning.
Experiential learning, figuring things out by doing.
Exactly. Figuring out their own boundaries and preferences through action.
So it's like they're running their own personal research project on who am I?
That's a great way to put it.
And for the adults, the parents, the caregivers, the trick is to support that exploration without, freaking out at every new phase, right?
That's absolutely key. Offering consistent support, even when things seem to be changing constantly, provides a crucial anchor.
What does that sound like?
Maybe something like, it's okay to explore who you're becoming, and I'll be here to support you as you figure things out. Just that validation can be incredibly powerful. And alongside this big identity shift, we often see something else emerge quite strongly. What we can think of as the rise of shame.
Shame. Okay. How is that different from, say, younger kids?
Well, younger kids might mostly worry about getting caught doing something bad, right?
Yeah, breaking a rule.
Seventh graders, though, they develop this much more internal and socially acute fear of being seen as unacceptable. It's deeper, more pervasive, rooted in their social world.
Unacceptable. That hits differently. What kinds of things trigger that feeling?
Oh, it can be lots of things. Academic setbacks, definitely, but also seemingly small things, like appearance-based comments.
Oh, yeah.
The subtle sting of family comparisons, especially with siblings, that can be huge.
Yeah.
Their growing awareness around gender and sexual identities, and even just the intense fear of a social misstep, of doing something they see as deeply cringe.
Ah, the cringe factor. That feels very specific to this age.
It really is. And for them, cringe often means embarrassing or just out of sync with their peers. It can lead to really profound feelings of shame.
And the material we looked at really points out that this kind of shame is, well, it's different. It's not loud defiance like a toddler tantrum.
No, not usually.
It's often internalized, quiet, almost corrosive to their self-esteem. It tends to make them shut down, not explode.
Exactly. It's quiet but powerful. So the question becomes, how can we respond in a way that actually helps counteract this?
Modeling seems important, like modeling self-compassion.
That's a crucial first step. Being open about your own mistakes, maybe, and how you try to treat yourself kindly when you mess up. That provides a powerful example.
So actually saying things like,
I really messed that up and I'm trying to be kind to myself about it. It shows them a healthier way to handle imperfection and directly reassuring them too. Something like, it's okay to make mistakes. It doesn't mean you are a mistake, or it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
that validation sounds key to dismantling that fear of being unacceptable.
It really is.
Okay, let's maybe zoom out for a second. Can we talk about the overall developmental snapshot for this age? Like, what are the big cognitive, emotional, and physical changes happening around 12, 13?
Sure. Cognitively, you see significant leaps. Their logical reasoning gets sharper, their ability to plan ahead improves, and even their capacity for constructing arguments gets better.
So get ready for more debating.
Definitely more sophisticated and sometimes relentless debating. Their self-awareness also becomes much more acute,
Oh, so?
particularly around their own mistakes, perceived flaws, and where they think they fit or don't fit in their social world. They also get better at hypothetical thinking. You'll hear more what-if questions, exploring potential scenarios, especially social ones. And while their ability to understand others' perspectives, their empathy deepens. Applying it consistently, that can still be a work in progress.
That makes sense. It's developing, but maybe not always switched on.
Yeah.
And emotionally, it sounds like potentially a bit of a storm.
It really can be. Expect intense mood swings, heightened sensitivity to, well, almost everything, tone of voice, facial expressions, and especially peer judgment.
That inner critic gets loud, huh?
Oh, full volume.
Yes.
Leading to more shame, embarrassment, constant comparison. And what's interesting, or maybe confusing sometimes, they can swing between genuine empathy 1 minute
Yeah.
and what seems like total lack of consideration the next. It's usually not malice, more like inexperience navigating really complex social and emotional stuff.
Right, and they're starting to ask that big question.
Who am I really?
Exactly.
Even if they don't have the words or the confidence yet to really answer it fully.
And physically huge variations at this age, right, between different kids.
Absolutely huge. On average, girls might be well into puberty, menstruation, breast development, maybe dealing with early sexualization. Boys, on the other hand, might be just starting, dealing with voice cracks, new hair, growth spurts, body odor.
And that gap itself can cause issues.
Definitely. That disparity in physical development can absolutely contribute to social awkwardness, self-consciousness, feeling ahead or behind their peers. Lots of friction there.
Now, the information we have also suggests some, let's say, general patterns between boys and girls during this time, but it really stresses these are just broad trends, not like definitive rules.
That's a crucial caveat, yes. These are general tendencies, absolutely not destiny for any individual kid.
So bearing that in mind, what are some of those typical patterns we might see?
Okay, so puberty-wise, as we mentioned, girls often experience those earlier, more visible changes, bringing their own set of anxieties. Boys often navigate a wider range of timing early, late, and can get pretty self-conscious about height, voice, body image.
Right. And socially?
Socially, we often see girls forming very close-knit friendship groups, intense loyalty, but also prone to shifting alliances. Sometimes that mean girl triangulation dynamic and lots of comparison around status and appearance.
Yeah. And boys?
Boys' bonds tend to form more around shared activities, often with a lot of banter, sometimes rough teasing. And there can be this kind of unspoken pressure to downplay vulnerability, to not seem weak.
And how might these general trends affect how they cope emotionally?
Well, again, broadly speaking, we often see girls tending to internalize struggles more. That might look like anxiety, perfectionism, feeling excluded.
Okay.
Boys may be more inclined to externalize, so displays of anger, sarcasm, avoidance, maybe escaping into gaming or other activities.
And how they actually talk about it or don't talk about it.
Girls might be more likely to ruminate, maybe vent to a trusted friend or adult. Boys might tend to deflect with humor or just go quiet, unless they feel really safe and are gently prompted.
And it's just so important, as the sources stress, to remember these are just general leanings. Every single kid is different.
Absolutely. Emotional safety has to be personalized. Always.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to their school lives. What are the big changes happening academically in 7th grade?
Well, there's a definite move away from just, memorizing facts towards developing critical thinking skills. That's across the board.
In subjects like?
English, they're analyzing texts, building arguments. Math often brings in more abstract stuff, pre-algebra. Science might get into genetics, chemical reactions. Social studies looks at broader historical systems, societal structures.
Even health class gets more complex.
Right. Puberty, basic mental health ideas, substance awareness, and electives, art, music, tech, they often become more central, like avenues for self-discovery.
So the key thing is they're learning how to think more critically, not just what to think.
Exactly. And that naturally leads to more questioning of information, more critiquing of ideas, wanting to know the why behind things.
Which can be exciting, but maybe also a bit challenging for teachers and parents sometimes.
Yes, potentially. It's a good challenge, though.
Definitely. And then there are those incredibly complex social pressures that just seem to peak around this age. It feels like that internal who am I question gets tangled up with who am I to others.
That's a really crucial insight. The fear of being excluded, of missing out, it really intensifies in 7th grade.
FOMO on steroids.
Pretty much. Missing group texts, not getting invited to sleepovers, being outside an inside joke, these things can feel genuinely devastating.
Wow.
Friendships become incredibly intense, interpersonal drama can flare up fast, and those friend divorces, as they're sometimes called, can be surprisingly painful.
Friend divorces.
And of course, romantic interests become much more visible. Crushes, pairings, rumors,
Hogfest.
whether it's real connection or just social maneuvering.
And the pressure to just fit in, it feels enormous.
Huge. Clothes, apps on their phone, makeup, humor, even attitudes and opinions. Our sources highlight how they're really both the author and the audience of their own social identity at this age.
Author and audience, constantly creating and watching.
Yeah, trying to figure out who they are while being hyper-aware of how peers are perceiving them.
Which brings us straight to social media, doesn't it? Its role becomes pretty significant.
Very significant. It often shifts from just seeing what friends are up to being more like a constant mirror, reflecting how they measure up. Or how they think they measure up.
Right. Platforms like TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, Instagram,
Right.
they become tools for comparison and very careful self-presentation, curation.
Exactly. Even platforms parents might not even know they're on.
So what are the key pressures coming from this constant digital engagement?
Appearance is massive. Huge pressure there.
Yeah.
And perceived validation, likes, comments, followers, that feels really important to them. There's also pressure to seem more mature than they might feel. They're seeing curated highlight reels of everyone else's life, which fuels inadequacy. Plus, they're bumping into adult content, complex social issues, sometimes before they can really process it all.
It's a minefield. So what kind of guidance actually helps with social media for this age?
Well, fostering dialogue around influence versus authenticity online is valuable.
How do you do that?
Asking things like, what do you think this person wants you to feel when you see their post? Get them thinking critically.
Okay.
And normalizing screen shame, that yucky feeling after scrolling too long, explaining that the platforms are designed to be addictive. It's not just a personal failing.
That makes sense. Take some pressure off them. Now, with all these tricky social dynamics, friendship conflicts seem, well, almost guaranteed in 7th grade.
They really are pretty much inevitable. And it's important to see them as often a normal part of development, not necessarily a sign that something's deeply wrong with their friendships.
So they're learning experiences even when they hurt.
Exactly. 7th grade friendships can be incredibly close, built on shared values. But they're also where kids practice navigating boundaries, disagreements, loyalty, which naturally leads to drama.
Okay, so when that drama hits, what should parents or caregivers try not to do? What makes it worse?
Generally, try to avoid panicking over every little shift. Don't try to force kids to make up before they're ready.
Right.
And definitely resist dismissing their feelings as just drama. To them, it feels incredibly real and overwhelming.
So what does help? What are the more constructive approaches?
Teaching them how to name what hurt them without just blaming their friend is a huge skill.
Like using I felt statements.
Exactly. Encouraging diverse connections helps too. Friends from activities, family, community. So one friendship blip doesn't feel like the end of the world.
Spreading the social eggs across more baskets.
Kinda, yeah. And just having open talks about what makes a friendship healthy, respect, trust, support, gives them a framework to think about their own relationships.
Okay, let's talk about the role of the family environment. Given all these outside pressures, what's the ideal role for home during this often bumpy year?
Home really needs to be that consistent safe haven, a place to let their guard down, be themselves. But crucially, not another pressure zone.
Finding that balance between support and not hovering.
Exactly. Respecting their growing need for privacy is key. Something like, you don't have to tell me everything, but know I'm always here if something's on your mind. That can work well.
And remembering they still need you, even if they act like they don't.
Oh, absolutely. They might push away, act like they don't need you nearly as much, but that consistent love, support, and just presence still matters immensely. Deep down, they rely on it.
So what are some concrete, practical things we can do to create that supportive home base?
Maintaining some routines helps. Even if they grumble, routines provide subtle stability.
Okay.
Modeling emotional openness yourself is huge.
Yeah.
Sharing your own tough emotions and how you handle them normalizes their feelings.
Makes it less scary for them.
Right. Asking genuine, thoughtful questions that go beyond, how was school, can open doors.
Like what?
Like, when do you feel most like yourself? Or, what's something you felt proud of recently, even if no one else noticed?
Those are good.
And maybe try framing things as interesting instead of just good or bad behavior. It encourages curiosity and self-reflection, not just seeking approval.
Interesting. Using interesting. I like that. Now, our sources also mentioned something about 7th graders and mental health language, that they often know the words, but maybe not the full meaning.
That's a really important point, yeah. Thanks to social media, online discussions, they hear terms like anxious, trauma, maybe even gaslighting a lot.
Right, they pick it up.
But their emotional vocabulary can sometimes outrun their actual understanding. So it's helpful to guide them in, like differentiating feelings.
How so?
Helping them explore, is this really anxiety? Or maybe is it feeling overstimulated? Or is it social pressure? Getting more specific.
And modeling that specificity ourselves.
Definitely. Saying something like, when I feel really overwhelmed, I notice a tightness here in my chest. That's often how anxiety shows up for me. It gives them a reference point.
That makes sense. How can we even start these deeper conversations, though? Do the sources give any specific conversation starters that might work?
They do offer a few good ones. Asking, what's one thing you wish adults really understood about being your age right now? That kind of flips the power dynamic, lets them teach you.
Oh, I like that one.
Or, when do you feel the most pressure? Like at school or online?
Yeah.
That targets those invisible stressors.
Mm-hmm.
What's something you feel like people misunderstand about you? Gives them language for identity. And maybe heard or learned anything lately that made you think differently. That builds critical thinking.
The key being?
The key is creating consistent opportunities for these talks, making it feel relaxed and welcoming. Not like an interrogation, don't force answers.
Right, create the space. And when they do open up, how do we reinforce their resilience without falling into that toxic positivity trap, that pressure to just be fine?
Oh, that's crucial. Validate first, always. Don't minimize or rush to solutions.
So instead of, oh, you'll be fine.
Try, wow, that sounds really tough. You don't have to be okay right away. Acknowledge the difficulty.
Okay, instead of just ignore them.
Maybe. It makes total sense you felt hurt by that. Want to brainstorm how you might handle it if it happens again? Empower them, but validate the feeling first.
And instead of the classic, it's not a big deal.
Try. It feels like a big deal to you, and that's valid because it matters to you. I get that. Acknowledge their reality.
That validation feels so much more connecting. The sources also had some really practical preemptive scripts, actual phrases kids could use in tough spots. Can you share some?
Yeah, these are great to have ready. If they're being teased in a way that's not funny, just a simple, that's not funny to me, or I'm not really into that.
Direct and clear.
If facing peer pressure, nah, not my thing. Or, I'd rather not, thanks, I'm good. Polite but firm.
Okay. What about needing space at home?
Can I just have 5 minutes? I'm not quite ready to talk yet. Help set a boundary respectfully.
And if they're struggling but don't know what they need?
Saying, I don't know exactly what I need right now, but I know I'm not feeling okay. That's a really brave and important starting point for getting support.
Having those phrases ready could make a real difference. On the flip side, what are some common adult reactions we should really try to avoid? Things that backfire.
Oh, definitely avoid the rapid-fire interrogation. Who said what? What happened next? Tell me everything.
Yeah.
It just makes them shut down.
Right. Feels like being grilled.
Comparing them to siblings or friends is almost always damaging. Breeds resentment, kills trust. Using sarcasm or teasing about their appearance, even jokingly, it can sting really deeply at this age. They're so self-conscious.
Yeah. Tread carefully there.
And dismissing their online world. Oh, that's not real life. It's just social media.
Yeah.
That invalidates a huge part of their social reality and the stress that comes with it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it's real to them before you talk boundaries.
Good point. Now, what about more serious signs? What are some red flags that might suggest a 7th grader is facing bigger challenges and needs extra support?
Okay, some things to watch for. A noticeable pattern of social withdrawal. Losing interest in friends, activities they used to love. That could signal depression, exclusion, maybe an identity crisis, or that masking we talked about.
Okay.
Sudden, drastic changes in appearance. Could be normal exploration, sure, but could also signal distress, rejection. Serious body image issues. A sharp, sustained drop in grades might mean they're overwhelmed, lack motivation, or are dealing with internal turmoil.
Right.
The frequent "I'm fine" combined with increased irritability or defensiveness, that can be a sign of emotional shutdown. Needs gentle probing, not pressure. And persistent perfectionism, or this intense fear of disappointing you, that can be a risk factor for anxiety, burnout, really low self-worth down the line.
Those are important things to keep an eye on. So what are some practical tools and tips for support we can actively use? Ways to connect and help?
Nonverbal check-ins can be great, like using emoji notes left on their door, or maybe a sliding scale chart on the fridge where they can just point to how they're feeling.
Low pressure.
Exactly. Or even a share-a-song thing, where music becomes a way to express feelings without words. Using media TV shows, YouTube, books as mirrors can work too.
How so?
Talking about characters' feelings or situations. How do you think they felt? It's less direct than asking about their own feelings sometimes.
Makes sense.
Giving them freedom to fail safely is huge. Support their recovery from mistakes. Don't just try to prevent every single one. That builds resilience.
Okay.
Allowing moodiness without immediate punishment while still holding boundaries on respectful behavior is important too. Their moods will swing.
And normalizing.
Normalizing, saying, you don't have to be okay right now, and that's okay. I'm here for you until you are. That offers immense comfort and permission to just be.
That feels really powerful. Lastly, the sources offered some caregiver reflection prompts, questions for us adults to ask ourselves. What were some key ones?
Yeah, good ones to sit with. Like, am I truly responding to who they're becoming now, or am I still stuck on who they used to be? Keeps us present.
Important.
Am I giving them enough space to grow, to be independent, without making them feel abandoned? That's that tricky balance again.
Right. Support versus smothering.
Have I actually created a home where awkward questions, weird thoughts, being messy is safe, where they won't be judged? Fostering that open communication, and am I actively modeling how to handle mistakes and bounce back from setbacks in my own life? Because they're always watching our example.
We're teaching even when we don't think we are.
Always.
So what's the final, the main mindset anchor we should hold on to as we navigate this complex 7th grade year?
I think it boils down to this shift. They're not intentionally being difficult. They're likely having a difficult time.
That reframes things.
It really does.
Yeah.
7th grade tests caregivers' patience like almost no other time, right?
Yeah.
But it's also when your consistent presence, your unwavering support matters more than ever. Keep being that soft place to land.
Even if they slam the door sometimes.
Even if they slam the door. Because chances are they'll eventually need to crawl back through it, and they need to know you'll still be there when they do.
That's such a powerful and important reminder. Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive into the world of the 7th grader, we've seen it's this pivotal year marked by huge emotional shifts, identity exploration, loads of challenges, but also real opportunities for growth. And hopefully getting a deeper understanding of these dynamics can help us all navigate this formative time with, more empathy and effectiveness with the young people in our lives.
Absolutely. And as everyone listening takes these insights away, maybe take a moment to reflect. Think about your own early adolescence, perhaps, or the young people you see going through this now. How might this understanding shift how you connect, how you empathize?
Yeah, definitely food for thought. This deep dive is really just a starting point, isn't it? Continued observation, open communication, and just a genuine willingness to try and see the world through their eyes that feels crucial as we support these young people. Thanks so much for joining us for this exploration.